So the thing is that the mental model hacks. So I'll give you an example of like one of the mental model hacks, right? So Buffett says that if you hang out with people better than you will get better. If you hang out with people worse than you will get worse. So there's a gravitational pull either way. Now, it should be apparent that we should hang out with people better than us. But then the question is, how do we know someone is better than us? And one of the hacks that Charlie uses is that sometimes you're going to meet some people and it's going to be obvious that these are amazing, great people, high quality people. Going to be very obvious. Bring them into the inner circle. I asked Warren at the lunch, I told Warren, how come you are such a great judge of humans? He said, Mohnish, you are mistaken. I am not a great judge of humans. He said, if you put me in a cocktail party with 100 people, and I met all 100 of them for, let's say, 2 minutes, right? He said, I could probably tell you that 3 or 4 people were amazing, great people. I could probably also tell you that 3 or 4 people are people I want to have nothing to do with, right? And the other 92, I would not have any interest in. I would not know how to rank them or rate them. So the hack that Buffett uses and Munger uses, they will not try to figure out the 92. That's too much work. They will just bring in the top 3-4% into their circle. And they will treat the bad people and the unknown people the same, which is take. So basically, now this is unfair. Someone could be really good, and now you excluded them. But the thing is, because there are an infinite number of humans on Earth, and therefore mathematically there are an infinite number of great people on Earth, because 3% of infinity is still infinity. The fact that you exclude a lot of great people, there's no penalty to be paid. Just like if we buy a great company and exclude a great company, we don't pay a penalty. But if we include a bad company, we pay a penalty. So the hack is that you don't try to figure it out. You just go with the no-brainers. And so now that becomes really fast, right? In terms of sifting through humans and all that. So even when they're looking at companies and businesses and business leaders and all that, they just look for, are they in the 3-4% I obviously know are great? And so just this particular hack would give you a huge leg up, because most humans will, first of all, they won't even have this model of, not interacting with people not so good. I mean, that's the first hack you use, is you're going to only deal with great people. For example, when I started playing bridge with Charlie, I met his friends. Okay. Every time I met a friend of his, I said, wow, this guy is really amazing. What an extremely high quality human being. So I did a hack. I said, every friend of Charlie is a friend of mine. Okay. I don't need to figure it out. He's already figured it out. And so I built relationships with all these friends of Charlie. And I just look at them, and every time I think about the way they are and we are talking and such, the quality level is so high. And then, when you just spend your time with these types of people all the time, life becomes so amazing. So that book, this particular nuance is just one little piece. There's a lot of other pieces in there.
That's amazing. I guess you are a no-brainer for Charlie Munger, Mohnish, so you should feel very proud.
I feel that one day, both these guys are going to figure out that I'm a fraud. They're going to figure out. Because I always think, I'm just a kid from the suburbs of Mumbai. Okay. I said, one day they're going to figure out that once in a while they make an error in judgment. They made an error in judgment with me. And then that's going to be the end of the lunches and the bridge games. Okay. Now, it hasn't happened so far. We're still in the game. Hopefully it continues. But I know one day they're going to figure it out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, someone asked a question about decision making. So I put up a tweet recently that said, if you can't decide, the answer is no. And I think that's the reason I have decision making heuristics that I use. And actually, there are 3 decision making heuristics that I use. And it's very hard to come up with a decision making heuristic because there's infinite choices we're making all day long. And trying to figure out like some rule that apply to all the choices is really difficult. So obviously, these rules are not going to apply to everything. You have to be intelligent about when to use them and when not to use them. First is, if I'm faced with a difficult choice, such as should I marry this person, should I take this job, should I buy this house, should I move to this city, should I go in business with this person? If you cannot decide, the answer is no. And the reason is because modern society is full of options. There are tons and tons of options. We live in a planet of 7 billion people. We are connected to everybody on the internet. There's hundreds of thousands of careers available to you. There are so many choices. You're biologically not built to realize how many choices there are, because we evolved in tribes of 150 people, where if you pass up one choice, the second thing never comes along. Also, when you choose something, you get locked in for a long time. If you start a business, that's 10 years. You get into a relationship, that's 5 years, maybe more. You move to a city, that's 10, 20 years. So these are very, very long-lived decisions. So it's very, very important that you only say yes when you are pretty certain. You're never going to be absolutely certain, but you're going to be very positive. If you find yourself creating a spreadsheet for a decision with a list of yeses and nos and pros and cons and checks and balances and why this is good or why that's bad, forget it. You have to internalize it in your gut and in your heart, and you have to really want something before you go for it. So my first decision-making heuristic is, if you cannot decide, the answer is no.
If I were to recommend one book, I would say it would be Poor Charlie's Almanac. I would say that I try to reread that book every year. And every year I read stuff that I can swear I never read before. So it's like it's the gift that keeps on giving. And the book is in two parts. The second part of the book is more interesting, which has all the different great talks that Charlie gave. And one particular talk he gave at Harvard many years ago, which he updated for the book, The Psychology of Human Misjudgment. I think that is just incredible. It's about 50 pages in the book. And if you incorporated the lessons of that essay, it would give you a huge advantage in life. One thing I realized with all the time I spent with Charlie is I realized that, okay, he's got incredible horsepower, horsepower beyond anyone I've met. But it's not just the horsepower. He's pounding into his brain close to 400 or 500 books a year. I mean, the prolific rate that he's reading is very high. It's more than a book a day. So he's pounding in 400 or 500 books a year, probably for the last 7 or 8 decades that he's been pounding. So, if you take 80 years, that's like 40,000 books. It's a lot of books. And then plus there's annual reports and newspapers and magazines and all of that. But that's not even it. The thing what Charlie has done, and that's why that essay is so important. So he has the amazing brain, and he's populated that brain with a lot of data, which is important data. But the third hack that he has is the hack of mental models. So what he's done with all that 40,000 books of whatever he's read and all the life experience he's had is he's figured out certain hacks about the way humans are. And if you figure out those hacks, which is what he mentions in that essay, because that essay basically in effect took him 50 years to get the wisdom to write that essay, that gives you just a huge head start.